Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen. It's a late night edition on a Monday night. I hope everyone enjoyed a great Mother's Day yesterday. It was a really good day overall, great weather, and a great opportunity to celebrate the mothers out there and all the great mothers. So hopefully each and every one of you had a great Sunday. But today, Monday, plenty of different things to talk about. Pitt makes an offer to a tight end in the portal. Former Florida State and Florida A&M tight end has certainly garnered a lot of interest in the Power Four, Cal, Texas, just to name a few schools that were being looked at. Cal, Kansas, North Carolina. This tight end, honestly, I think it'd be a really good addition, a 2024 all-conference tight end, and a really good opportunity for this guy, Kobe Gross. Really getting a significant amount of offers. I don't think he's going to be done getting enough offers just like that. I think he's going to get a lot more. So Pitt's going to certainly be competing for another tight end, which is really a good thing as they continue to rebuild that room. But also another one, a big one that happened this week, as you can imagine, drama through the Twitter sphere. Former Pine Richland offensive lineman and Indiana alum Michael Kadich with some harsh words towards Pitt in terms of recruiting. We're going to talk about that tonight and my thoughts and why, every player in the WPIAL is not guaranteed an offer and the realities behind WPIAL recruiting when it comes to players who are using Pitt for other offers. We'll talk about that tonight and the back and forth between Pitt and the WPIAL in terms of coaching and recruiting for college football. Guys, as always, smash the like button and subscribe and join Alliance 412. As always, if you haven't done so, head over from X to YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It's free. Make sure you jump on there. Another Wombat in here. Boom. Excited for Pitt football. Couldn't agree more, brother. We're almost there. We're some months away, but we continue to grind through it. But first, before we get into it, guys, as always, Colonial Beer. The show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Again, the Pitt beer can they got, obviously, with Icy Light, a great collaboration between the University of Pittsburgh and Icy Light. Make sure you guys go in there. Tremendous people. They have re-upped to be the sponsors again for the show. We've got a number of great people to deal with a great show like this. And again, we cannot be who we are without you and your support. Make sure you go to Colonial Beer at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. The show is also sponsored by Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson, an attorney on your side. Call them at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Brian Thompson, a dear friend of mine, someone that I use as a personal attorney. He comes from a great family, has a great family. And the great thing about Brian being a smaller law firm, unlike the larger law firms, he cares about you, the individual. You're not a number. You're an individual with a problem that you need a solution to. Brian is that guy. He will guide you through the process from beginning to end. If he doesn't have the answer, he'll get you the answer from somebody else to make sure that you get the results that you need. Again, Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson. Call them at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. And lastly, the show is sponsored by The K Collection, the coffee brand by Austin Kitchen. Go to www.thekingscraft.com. It's the K, backwards K Collection. Black bag, gold lettering, the K Collection, the Guatemala batch, the AK Espresso, the one that I currently use that I love to use every morning when I get to my office. And there's also another brand there as well. There's 3 different kinds of the coffees. Make sure you go on there today. The K Collection coffee brand by Austin Kitchen, www.thekingscraft.com. Eric Heinchel, thank you, sir. Mason Heinchel's dad, thank you for getting the Guatemala batch, I believe it was what it was, or the AK Espresso. Sent me a text this afternoon while at my office. It was pretty cool to see. Austin is beyond appreciative and appreciate all of the Pitt fans supporting Austin in this venture. And if it can support Austin, who plays for the Seattle Mariners and their organization, and really can boost a Major League Baseball player, it can certainly help you out, and it certainly helped me out for a guy who's not even a coffee guy. So that says enough about it. Again, the K Collection coffee brand by Austin Kitchen. Go to www.thekingscraft.com. Eric Heinchel, the Guatemala, amen. Thank you. Yes, and again, guys, make sure you go on there and get a batch of it. Is the tight end going to visit this weekend? We're still not sure about a visit yet. I don't think it's planned. I think he's still getting offers out there. I think he's actually a really damn good football player and can really add a little bit of depth to that tight end room. We'll continue to watch it. He's going to get a lot of offers throughout the week and into next week as well, but hopefully Pitt continues to work towards that. Coach Bronowski and Cade Bell work together hand in hand with Pat Narduzzi to get him on campus. We're certainly going to need it. But the first things first, before we get into it, the one thing that really jumped up to from this past week, and again, I saw numerous tweets about it. I made comments about it. I thought it was crazy that West Virginia people were going to try to tell me how WPIAL recruiting goes at Pitt. Like West Virginia, a school that has really been notoriously horrible at recruiting the WPIAL, not developing players down there, and they think they talk to 2 or 3 different guys and just say, well, they just don't put a lot of resources to it. Last time I checked, between Pitt, Penn State, and West Virginia, Pitt has recruited the most P4 talent out of the WPIAL. It's been, just not even close in terms of how much talent they grab from the WPIAL. They do miss out on guys that are towards the upper echelon. We've seen them go to Penn State. We've seen them go to Ohio State. Those guys, and even Notre Dame. We've seen Heinisch brothers go to Notre Dame. Dracovic, when he came out of college, when he came out of high school at Pine Richland. Pitt has been able to recruit at a high level in terms of the WPIAL and getting certain guys in there. Now, have they won every single year in terms of that? No. But they've gotten Nakai Johnson. They've gotten Paris Ford, DeMar Hamlin. They've gotten Elliott Donald. Those guys, Dorian Ford, when they were coming out, they certainly recruited those areas extremely hard and were very successful. Those guys may have not panned out like we wanted to when it came to the University of Pittsburgh, but there have been plenty of guys, DeMar Hamlin, Dane Jackson, Cruz Brookins, who's there today, Devin Danielson. We've seen Nakai Johnson go through here. We've seen numerous guys from top to bottom on both offense and defense. Jordan Whitehead, Tyler Boyd, James Conner. We can add him into the WPIAL in terms of that aspect. Dorian Johnson, Adam Bisnawati. We've got numerous of guys that have gone from the WPIAL to Pitt, and it's been, it can't even be contested. So I don't want to hear that Pitt's not putting enough resources into it. Do I think that Pitt needs to repair a lot of the relationships between Pitt and the WPIAL coaches? Yes. From people that I talk to, and I talk to numerous coaches, I talk to numerous recruits, I talk to numerous commits, I can tell you that there's a dysfunction between this regime at Pitt right now and the WPIAL coaches. It obviously does not help that a lot of WPIAL coaches and WPIAL trainers tell kids to go to other places outside of Pitt, push them away from Pitt. That's not a good thing. I think Pitt does a great job of allowing coaches and trainers to use their facilities. Personally, I think Pat Narduzzi is a better man than I am. If that was going on, in my regime, I would not be allowing them to use my facility. At the end of the day, you're kind enough to allow them to use a great facility like that. You're going to push them away from Pitt and tell them to go somewhere else. I think it's a little crazy to begin with. But we're going to jump into it here. There's actually a video here that I'm going to play for you guys, and it was posted by WPIAL Insight. Great job always. We're going to go ahead in here and just go over some of the comments here, because some of them, I understand where he's coming from a number of different things, but also, too, I don't agree with some of the stuff they're talking about here, because it's absolutely ridiculous on numerous levels. Let me see here. Share my screen. Share there. All right. Dive into it here. Let's see what he has to say here.
Power 5, Power 4 now, I should say.
Yeah, Pitt. I hated Pitt.
Really?
Yeah.
That feels like
growing up there,
such a
but let me
badass
explain why. So growing up a Pittsburgh kid, you always think like the hometown school should recruit hometown kids. Like that's just that's how everyone saw it. And
Oh no, it's here too.
Yeah.
People get on DePaul a lot for not getting high school hoops.
I don't understand it. And it's just like, if I'm a hometown kid and I grew up a Pitt fan, I grew up a Pitt and Penn State fan, and Coach Narduzzi never recruited me. They recruited me a little bit. They were like, come to camps. If you come to a camp, we'll offer you. And I went to a camp, didn't get an offer. And then, so I committed to Indiana in June of 18. They didn't offer me until May of 18. So a month before I wanted to commit. And it was just too late, too little. And I don't want to get into too much because there's a lot of behind the scenes recruiting stuff that a lot of people don't see.
Yeah.
But they didn't treat me that well after I told them I committed to Indiana. And so I have a sour taste on my mouth with Pitt.
From Pitt.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, that's a bummer. But also, like, you kind of see it too, and especially now knowing what I know. And I wasn't recruited at all, but you do kind of want to break out of your shell.
Yeah.
And go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I'm so glad I did. Yeah. I'm so glad because I love Pittsburgh. I love being home, but there's a type of feeling like getting away from home and like disassociating with everything and just like being in a new place with new friends. It's a really
okay. So obviously, Michael Kadich with a number of different things there, and we're going to talk about just a number of different comments. Okay. So for starters, see if we can get back on the screen here. For starters, here's what really gets me. The notion, and again, this is his opinion, okay? I mean, he still went to Indiana, had 50 starts. We'll go into that as well. I mean, he certainly has his opinion. There's nothing wrong with that, and he felt like he was slighted, and hey, that's his personal opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to have a different opinion than everybody else. But also, here's the thing too. He talks about, you're supposed to recruit the hometown kids. Well, Pitt was the first in that class for Phil Dracovic. Phil Dracovic didn't go to Pitt. And actually, Phil Dracovic down the road said some bad stuff about Pitt and still ended up coming back to Pitt because he needed help to play football. I mean, at the end of the day, I got a soft spot for WPIAL athletes, but at the same time, though, if you make disparaging comments, for me personally, I don't think there's no reason for that player to ever come back to play for Pitt. You've missed your opportunity. You've run your mouth. You couldn't make it out there. That's on you. That's on nobody else but yourself. You were a horrible football player. For Michael Kadich's opinion, first off, he says, they didn't really recruit me. Well, they clearly did recruit you because they offered you, okay? They offered you in May. The majority of kids don't make decisions till June, July, August, September, or into that football season. Okay, so Pitt clearly recruited you. Okay, and if Pitt was the first one to offer him, he wasn't going to go to Pitt. I'm sorry. It's not even just that. It's also the fact that he says he grew up a Pitt and Penn State fan. That's bewilderment to me. I don't know. There's people out there that do that. I don't know how that works. I think that's a crock of shit. I mean, I'm not sure how that goes, but that's up to him. Number two, clearly that Pitt did recruit him, and a number of coaches went out and saw him. He was at camps. They loved Kristofic. They loved a number of different guys there, okay? And from coaches that I've talked to and people who I talked to that are close to the program, talked about how Kadich wouldn't have gotten on the field. He was a 2019 recruit. He probably would have gotten on the field at 2021, 2022, okay? People make the comment, well, he's got 50 starts under his belt. Pitt clearly missed. I think there's a good point. He had 50 starts. He clearly played football. He was clearly a starter. That's a huge factor. But also, too, he had 50 starts besides his last year that contributed to his head football coach, Tom Allen, getting fired. So, I mean, how good was that team overall? Besides last year at Indiana football is not good. I mean, it's been notoriously one of the worst football programs in the country. Kurt Cignetti comes in last year and really lights a fire underneath Indiana football, and they go to the college football playoff. I mean, that was a phenomenal season overall for Indiana. Congratulations to those kids. Michael was on that team. Congratulations to him. But until last season, what was really there? I'm confused off of that. And this notion that, I talked to a number of different players that have gone to Pitt, guys who have not committed to Pitt. There's also a notion out there that a lot of guys want that Pitt offer so they can dangle it out there to try to get another offer and go somewhere else. So, for me, it's a two-way street. Obviously, too, I think Pitt needs to do a better job of recruiting the WPIAL on a higher level. To say that Pitt does not put a lot of resources into the WPIAL is also a crock of shit. I don't believe that at all. I've heard from numerous people, from coaches in the WPIAL. They say that's not true. They said those guys are currently in there. Cade Bell's been in there. Corey Sanders, the area recruiter, has been in there. Archie Collins is not even an area recruiter. He's in there. Randy Bates is in there. The one problem that I have, and I think that needs to get better, that's clearly a difference between like a school in Pitt and Penn State, is that James Franklin's in those rooms. James Franklin is in those schools recruiting guys already in 2027. Pat Narduzzi doesn't get in there till the year of 2027, whenever those guys are getting ready to commit. And I think that, that's a problem. I think that needs to get better. Pat Narduzzi needs to be better at recruiting. And I think in low key, I think Pat Narduzzi wants to move on, but there are a number of different coaches at Pitt that don't want to move on. They see the talent there. Like, for instance, Tyke Hayes. I mean, Pitt was on full blitz for Tyke Hayes out of Aliquippa. I mean, that was a number one guy they wanted to go after. Also, right now, Colson Gatton out of Central Catholic, linebacker. There's an all-out blitz for him right now. I mean, it's relentless recruiting for him right now. And obviously, he's coming from a Penn State family, but they're tremendous people. They're looking from everything right now. From everything I understand, from people within the program, outside the program, they're in a really good position to land him. I think that for me personally, I think that the Timmons miss. He went to Indiana. I thought that was a miss. I think Pitt needs to be better in that aspect of it. They need to recruit harder there. But also, too, it doesn't help when coaches are kind of pushing them to go other places. And to Kadich's position, Kadich, no offense. I mean, Penn State didn't even offer you. I mean, there were other schools that didn't offer you. For me, I don't like how there's a lot of attitude towards Pitt when they're not recruiting a guy. But then when Penn State doesn't recruit that kid, well, it's not that big of a deal. Well, Pitt doesn't owe anybody an offer. Pitt's job at this point is to win football games. They need to do a better job of winning football games. That's a fact. If they don't think that you fit the system or you fit what they want to do in terms of trying to win football games, they're not going to recruit you. Now, there's still a number of areas that Pitt needs to be better at. Again, they need to start winning more battles. From what I understand, they're still recruiting Timmons. They're still recruiting the kid out of Peters Township that committed to Stanford. Now, I think that's going to be a little bit harder because he committed to Stanford, and the tight ends coach and offensive coordinator out there, Nate Bynum, is from the Pittsburgh area. I think he's done a really good job and has really sold that opportunity out there to him. And he certainly did a good job, and he landed it out there. And I think also, too, Pat Narduzzi needs to be a lot better when it comes to relationship building, because there's a number of different issues that I have, because there are numerous coaches around the country that just don't like Narduzzi. I mean, that's just a fact. Narduzzi's certainly a player's coach. The guys that are currently there in that locker room, I've talked to many of them, love Pat Narduzzi. He's a player's coach. They've said it numerous times. But Pat needs to do a better job at recruiting the WPIAL. The assistants are going full blitz. I mean, on a number of different athletes there. I think Chris Hoke's son out of North Allegheny, I still right now project him from North Allegheny to the University of Pittsburgh. I still think he commits to Pitt. There's still another linebacker out of Peters Township. I think Pitt's really hard on him right now to try to get him. Colson Gatton out of Central Catholic. There's more guys that are currently there. I mean, those are just three guys right there that I think Pitt has got a really good shot. And I still think that they're not out in terms of the win for Timmons in terms of Big Ten football. And that's another aspect of it, too. Some of these coaches are telling them, no, don't go play in the ACC. Don't go play in the Big 12. Go to the Big 10 or the SEC. That's certainly not helping you right now because of the way that the TV markets and the TV revenue is going. But if there's one thing that's been true from the beginning of the Narduzzi era, even during the Paul Christ era, the guys that went from the WPIAL to Pitt have been very successful from going to the WPIAL to Pitt to the NFL. I mean, the numbers are all there. The guys that go from the WPIAL to the NFL, the numbers are damn good. But still, it's a two-way street. The WPIAL players need to understand that no one owes you an offer. And just because you're looking for that offer to dangle out there to get another offer from somewhere else. I mean, prime example, look at the Thomas kid from Miami. He had no offers. All I saw was Pitt fans telling me he's too small. He's 5'8". He's 5'9". He's too small. He can't play, all this stuff. Now he's got 30 offers from everywhere after all of a sudden Pitt offered. And his latest offer was from Georgia. That's going to be a tough kid to hang on to for this class. That's just a fact. He's got a great relationship with J.J. Laster and Cade Bell, but Cade Bell and J.J. Laster certainly find talent. And that goes for Archie Collins and Corey Sanders, too. Personally, I think Archie Collins, Corey Sanders, and Ryan Manilak are next level in terms of recruiting for the defensive side of the football. And I mean, and clearly the defensive back room and the linebacker room certainly show that between NFL guys and future NFL guys. But overall, still, again, it's a two-way street. Pitt needs to be better, and the guys in terms of recruiting the WPIAL area need to be better, and the coaches in the WPIAL need to be better. It's that simple. Going to some of the comments here. He's a Penn State fan, too. Why isn't he saying anything about them? And I think that bothered a lot of people too. So because you're a hometown kid, Pitt still does offer you, and you still bash Pitt when Penn State said you sucked and you couldn't play. I mean, I don't get it. It's almost like a double standard. It kind of gets annoying for a number of different reasons. Tim Bales, what's up, JJ? Tim, what's going on, man? Hit that like button. Yes, please. If you're over there now on X, head over to YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe. Certainly helps out with the algorithm. Thank you. I'm glad you're talking about this. Yeah, Justin, it certainly bothered me because the way that I look at it, and, yeah, any comment on the Seton LaSalle kid? The McKeesport kid, I still think that's a loss too. But man, out of Seton LaSalle, Khalil Taylor, I think that kid's gonna be a stud. And again, it for Penn State right now, it certainly helps them out that they were in the college football playoff. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that certainly does help. But right now, I think with Khalil Taylor, I still would like him. I know Pitt's still recruiting him. I mean, anybody that I've talked to, and that's another scenario too. Pat Narduzzi has not been in for 2027 guys, which I don't agree with. I think he should be in there. But Cade Bell, J.J. Laster, and Corey Sanders have all been in to see Khalil Taylor and Seton LaSalle. I know that for a fact from numerous people that I've talked to. I think Khalil Taylor is going to be. There are certain guys I'm just on that I think that could be damn good at Pitt. Khalil Taylor's one of them. Colson Gatton's one of them. I think he's going to be a damn good football player. And I think he's going to be a damn good linebacker. I think with the way that Pitt plays defense, and especially the linebacker position right now with Ryan Manilak, I hope he goes to Pitt because I think he'll be an absolute stud. And he comes from a great family. I think he'd be a great get. He's a Pittsburgh Central Catholic kid. Ryan Lahmeyer, who's a dear friend of mine, does a great job at Central Catholic. And I think he does a great job, and he continues to do a really good job. And personally, I think Ryan's going to be a college football coach, down the road, because that's how good of an offensive mind he is. I think that's how good of a football coach and developer he is. But, those are losses, man. Call it what it is. They're losses. And Pitt needs to be better in those aspects. The kid from McKeesport, I think he's still a damn good football player. I wasn't too upset about that, even though I consider it still a loss. The Khalil Taylor one was just absolutely just like that one, and it's still early. It's still 2027. The McKeesport kid, I thought that was a little bit of a jump. Still a little bit of a loss. I'm kind of surprised that Terry Smith pulled the trigger on that and said yes. I know that was up in the air on whether they wanted him or not. I think it's a little bit of a reach from what they were, a lot of people up there are telling me, but they still took him. I think Pitt, Khalil Taylor out of Seton LaSalle, a 2027 kid, Pitt should be on his ass no matter what. I think that kid is damn good. Damn good. I mean, like, that's a loss. I think that kid's really, really good. And he's a good wide receiver. Now, obviously, Pitt does have 3 wide receiver commits in the 2027 class. One of them, obviously, is Thomas, that 4-star recruit out of Miami. So they're still recruiting that position really well under Cade Bell. I just want to see them grab him. Tyke Hayes was another one. I thought, and I understand the relationship between him and Terry Smith going to Penn State. For me personally, if Tyke Hayes would have committed to Pitt, he would be side by side with Desmond Reed on that field. And I think he would be over Jules Goff. And I think he's competing for a one-on-one position with him and Des Reed. That's how much I thought Tyke Hayes was good. And I still think the relationship's still there. I think there's a potential chance down the road. You see guys like Quentin Martin up there that aren't getting any handoffs. They're having a hard time up there getting on the football field. You'll probably see them in the portal at some point. Tamir Robinson went into the portal, a linebacker. From my understanding, from people that I've talked to up there, he was asking for like $300,000. James Franklin pretty much showed him the door, and then obviously he went to almost said Upper St. Clair, went to University of Southern California. We'll see what Tamir Robinson looks like down the road, but I mean, I just think overall there have been misses, and those are 2 misses. Justin, again, appreciate it. I'm glad you're talking about this. The coaches in WPIAL also don't do a good job showcasing their talent. They just don't send out their film and don't call coaches to get more offers. I would say some of them do that. A lot of the good coaches in the WPIAL do reach out to college coaches, and I know a number of these coaches. And I mean, from single A to 6A. I mean, I think that there are great football coaches and high school football coaches in Western Pennsylvania. Obviously back, when Bob Palco was at West Allegheny, then he was at Mount Lebanon. He had a great run there. Jim Render was there. Chris Herring was there back in the day. You saw numerous coaches, especially down at Clairton, McKeesport, Aliquippa. I mean, anybody at Aliquippa. I mean, they just got tremendous football coaches down there developing talent. And they do a good job of sending those guys out. But it's like the aspect of some of these players, and it's a fact. Some of these players think that they're just bigger than Pitt. Pitt is a P4 offer. And to those players out there, if you act that way, you're losing a scholarship to the Power Four. I mean, it's hard enough to get to that level. You're only hurting yourself. And the way that some of those guys act on those visits, that's why I tell them to take those official visits. Cam Lindsey, he's another one where, I think before he took that visit to Pitt, that official visit, I would say West Virginia was in the lead. And then he took that official visit, and it was just a home run. Pitt was it. He wanted to go to Pitt, and he's going to be a great football player for Pitt this year. He's one of those guys. I'm calling BS on the Indiana tub of lard. There is no self-respecting Pitt man that would ever cheer back and forth and associate with Penn State. Sounds like a disingenuous. Sherlin, I hear you on that one, brother. I don't know how you're a fan of both either, but hey, people are out there. I know we've seen some media guys that are out there too that have certainly been fans of both. Do you think Dude says they will be in the portal and we will recruit them hard instead of them now? No, I think he's recruiting them hard now. But what Narduzzi does is he keeps the relationship going to where you see those guys like Derek Davis going to the portal. They want to come back home. He brings them back because he wants them. Donovan McMillan hits the portal. He comes back. He's now in the National Football League. He comes back. And there have been numerous guys that have done that. You know what I mean? It's just he builds those relationships. But for me personally, what I think that does is it kind of sets a trend to say to these players, well, if you don't pick Pitt out of high school and it doesn't work out to wherever you go, you can always just come back to Pitt because they'll offer you then because they want you here out of Pittsburgh. Me personally, I think that's a bad trend. I don't agree with it. I think if you go out and you go somewhere else and you say bad things about Pitt, you don't bring them back because now you're setting a trend. And I have, again, a soft spot in my heart for WPIAL guys because they're hometown guys. I love hometown guys playing for Pitt. Seeing the guys like Danny Marino back in the day, Bill Fralick. We saw Penn Hills tweet out a video of Bill Fralick. And then you saw early on in the Narduzzi era, you had Adam Bisnawati, Dorian Johnson. Dorian Johnson was a 5-star. Adam Bisnawati was a 4-star. Alex Officer, he was a 4-star. You saw James Conner. You saw Tyler Boyd. Sean Idowu, Elijah Zeiss. I mean, you saw guys across the field everywhere that were from the WPIAL. A Juan Price in the day. I mean, you guys remember a Juan Price out of Woodland Hills, and that's an incredible football program. Lafayette Pitts comes out of there. They got so many guys that have just come out of the WPIAL and gone to Pitt and have gone on to the National Football League. Aaron Donald, Jordan Whitehead, DeMar Hamlin, Paris Ford, Cruz Brookins there now. Then you have Dane Jackson. I mean, they're all guys that are in the National Football League. The numbers speak for themselves. But he certainly does recruit them hard in both. I just think that we're setting a trend to where if we don't land you out of high school, you can just come back whenever you want. I just don't agree with that. I think that they made their choice. You need to put your foot down and go find some other guys. Which, again, the amount of guys that from Florida, Georgia, now Texas, North Carolina, Ohio, and Maryland that love to come to Pitt, I'm good with it. If you're a WPIAL kid and you don't want to go to Pitt, that's fine, man. Sometimes you got to leave the area to go somewhere else and really develop yourself. That's fine. But when these other guys from out of state want to come to Pitt and they want to play here, and you have the Kalijah Kansis of the world, Jalen Twyman of the world, Kalijah Kansey from Miami, Jalen Twyman from Maryland, Germantown, Maryland, Rashad Weaver from Florida, Patrick Jones from Virginia. All those guys came here. They all went to the NFL. Gavin Bartholomew out in the middle of the state in PA. I think Kenny Johnson's going to have a really good year this year. I think he goes to the National Football League. He's a guy to watch for. Eli Holstein could potentially be that guy when you watch him develop and see how he plays this year. He's got a lot to prove. We'll see what he does. It's crazy to me. What's it going to take for Pitt to recruit better from a rankings perspective? I know they develop guys well, but all these guys seem to consider they should be able to get a few more high-rated guys. This is a great question. It's all about strategy in my opinion. I think that Pitt is using really all their resources to attract talent in the portal, but more importantly, retain talent. I think that the Pitt has a motto of paying guys that come in and prove it first. You know, like for instance, I heard from numerous different people. I think Pitt's offering like majority of high school kids out of high school 50 grand, you know, and like Penn State's offering guys like 120, 130. They're distributing wealth a whole different way. Now the salary cap is going to come out. That's certainly going to adjust it. I think that's actually going to help Pitt because they're going to pay more of their guys that are performing, and it's going to knock down the price on guys coming out of high school. But that kind of stuff, I mean, they're getting more money, and they're not saying, hey, here's a place that can really develop me. I'll go here. No, I'm going to choose this place because of money. And then all of a sudden in 2 years, they're in the portal. You know, so in a way, I kind of don't mind Pitt doing that because a lot of these kids are going to the portal anyway. So why spend the money now? Wait till they go to the portal, grab them then, show how you develop them. They mature, and a number of those guys come back and they don't want as much when they were coming out of high school. You know, Hakeem Williams was a guy that wanted $1 million out of high school. Pitt offered $250, came down to the wire. He chose Colorado because of Coach Prime, and those offers were the same. You know, do I think that Hakeem Williams would be better at Colorado? I don't think so because they don't have their quarterback situation figured out. That's a kid still immature. It is what it is. The other reality about recruiting is Pitt is located in Pittsburgh. We will always have rival fans in our backyard undermining the program because the area is a desirable place to live. No one is moving to Morgantown or Happy Valley. Again, this is a great comment. You know, and I thought there was a great article that came out today from Nittany Lions Sports Now that talked about how Pitt and Penn State are they're the rivals. You know, Penn State is trying desperately. They call themselves unrivaled. They are trying so hard to be a rival with Ohio State. To those Penn State fans out there, I'm sorry to break it to you. Ohio State is rivals with Michigan. That's how that is. That is the truth. That is whether they like it or not. You're also 1-10 against Ohio State. They're kicking the ever-loving shit out of you. I mean, literally, every year they're kicking the ever-loving shit out of you. And now they think because now they got Coach Knowles, who I think is a tremendous defensive coordinator. All of a sudden, everyone's like, well, now they're a national title contender. They're favored to win the national title. Penn State's always had great defenses. I mean, that's kind of what their niche has always been. It's been the mediocre offense. And we saw in the playoff last year where Penn State didn't complete one pass to a wide receiver against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame had over 7 injuries on defense. They were literally playing 2 true freshmen at corner, and they couldn't complete a pass to a wide receiver. That's an absolute shit show. And even the way that they couldn't complete a pass, they were still running the ball down the throat of Notre Dame because of the injuries. They were dominating the trenches, and for some reason, they tried throwing the football. And then with 35 seconds left in the game, they tried throwing the ball over the middle of the field with a quarterback who can't face legitimate teams. I mean, when it comes to Indiana, when it comes to Rutgers, Northwestern, Iowa, you know, I think Drew Allard does a great job. You know, he beats up on those teams, and there's still some of those games he struggles there. But when he faces Ohio State, he throws for like 130 yards and no touchdowns and with a couple interceptions. Michigan, the same thing. You know, Oregon, the same thing. You know, I thought he played a little bit better against Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, but under James Franklin, all these resources, and to his point, he complains about resources. I mean, buddy, you're at Penn State, you have everything you need, and you still have one Big Ten championship. You backed into the Big Ten championship last year. How is that possible? So in your time period, you have one Big Ten championship in 11 years. Because you can't beat Ohio State more than once in 11 years? That's wild to me. And a guy's making $9.5, $10 million a year. You know, sometimes it's got to give or take. And let me tell you something. He's got a lot of pressure this year. They have added a lot of talent in the portal. I think they've got a great roster this year. I still think Drew Allard, there's still question marks about him. I think that there's majority issues around him still. He still needs to prove himself against Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon. Those are really the only three. You know, Indiana, if they jump back this year, we'll see what they do this year. But there's really 3 teams. Even Michigan's got to bounce back. It's really Ohio State and Oregon. I mean, you got 2 teams that you face. And then you look at the non-conference schedule for Penn State. I mean, let's take a look at this here real quick. I got to see this because I know it's really, really bad. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Let's see here. Penn State 2025 schedule. Yeah, look at the non-conference. They start with Nevada. Then they face FIU, Florida International. Then they face Villanova. I mean, holy shit. I mean, that is horrible. Nevada. Look at this schedule. Nevada. And listen to some of these names. This is like absolutely wild. And like this is why, I understand it helps them try to get the wins that they need because they can't face too much hard talent. But they got Nevada. They got Florida International. Villanova. You have a hard game against Oregon. That's a hard game. UCLA. They're bad. I wish Tino Sinceri the best up there, but he's got a lot of work to do up there. They're bad. They were horrible last year. Northwestern also too. UCLA, Foster. I hope he gets better up there. I think he's a great guy, and I've heard nothing but good things about him. But when his press conference at the Big Ten Media Days was absolutely horrible. We know UCLA's in Los Angeles, brother. I mean, it's not hard to figure out. UCLA, bad. Northwestern, bad. Iowa, they could score maybe a touchdown a game, bad. Ohio State, that's a hard game. So it's 2 hard games. Indiana, we'll see what they do. Right now, we'll count them as a hard game because they were good last year. Michigan State, bad. Nebraska, bad. Rutgers, bad. I mean, they've got 3 games. At most, 3 games that are tough. I just, that's something, I just don't, I don't get it, and I think that James Franklin has a lot to work on. And I got news for you now. He is on the burner, baby. He's on the hot seat. I mean, he has to win this year because the amount of money that they've put into that program and getting Jim Knowles from Ohio State, which he was leaving there because he felt disrespected, slighted, whatever. I mean, fans are mean to you. I mean, when you're making millions of dollars, brother, I mean, suck it up. I mean, what the hell? I mean, that's just a fact. And I think that they have and they got Andy Kotelnicki. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. I just think James Franklin's got his hand in the cookie jar over there, and he's kind of telling them what to do. Because sometimes there were games that you saw, I think against like West Virginia, I saw the Penn State offense look like an Andy Kotelnicki offense. Then you saw him against Ohio State and Oregon. It was just kind of like, what are we doing here? And I think that, they beat a good team in SMU. Personally, I would have loved to see Miami in that game with Cam Ward and that offense scoring points. I thought it'd been a better football game. It is what it is. Still, SMU, Kevin Jennings. I think he'll be good this year with another year in the system at SMU. They're going to be good. They just scheduled a non-conference game with LSU. A lot like what Pitt used to do in terms of getting SEC teams up there like a Tennessee, which was a good football game. We'll get to a couple of these questions here. But I just think that, the undermining of the media too. I think 93.7 The Fan is absolute garbage. It's supposed to be our team, our official team channel, 93.7 The Fan. All they do is ever just talk about Kenny Pickett because, the Steelers are so bad anymore. They got to find somewhere to get people on board. It's almost like hate. Like just a personal hate. It's ridiculous. That's there. They don't talk about Pitt in a positive light. You got Penn State people down there. Andrew Filippone, I think, is an absolute clown. I mean, I understand what he does to get viewership and whatnot, but Jesus Christ. At least Doran Dickerson and Adam Crowley, I think they actually do a good job. I think they do a good job in the morning, which is why they're there. That's a good 1-2 punch from West Virginia and Pitt right there. They do a good job there. But it doesn't help that there's just always, back and forth hate. But also, too, Pitt can help themselves by actually winning the football games they're supposed to win. When you're 7-0, I understand there were injuries last year. There were some of those games that they were not going to win without Eli Holstein there. When you're missing 3 offensive linemen starting, when you're missing Desmond Reed, when you're missing 3 defensive linemen, when you're missing 2 defensive backs, that's going to happen. But you should have beaten Virginia. They should have sealed the deal against Clemson. That's 2 wins right there. Instead of being 7-6, you're 9-4. That's a whole different ball game, And for me, we'll see how this year goes. But depending upon if it gets better, that's great. Even if it does get better, as we get closer to 2030, these next 5 years are so crucial for college football and winning. I'm not exactly, I'm not against not starting with a new coach. I think there's a whole debacle and situation with that. I think Alan Green is going to be a really good athletic director at Pitt. People are asking, why is he not out talking to the media every single day? I mean, what the hell is there to talk about? I mean, he's got to build revenue behind the scenes, which he's doing. He's doing a great job fundraising. Anybody I've talked to from the Golden Panthers, they're still there. You also got the Panther Club. He's also got the Athletic Directors Fund. He's doing wonders there. He's doing a really good job with season tickets. You guys have probably saw, when we updated our season tickets, they're a little bit more this year. Not a little bit more, probably a lot more. And from what we paid last year, that's going towards NIL, paying players. And Pitt's going to go to that $20.5 million mark. From everything I've been told, they're going to be 75% to 80% to football. That's like everybody else, which is a good thing. And then Alan Green talked about on 93.7 The Fan and on KDKA, talking about how Alliance 412 is going to be that major factor to where they start bringing in more money after the $20.5 million to where they're going to supplement even more money to those players because of real NIL deals because they go through the clearinghouse. It just all goes hand in hand. But, the backlash that Pitt gets on a day in, day out basis from our just local media is dog shit, At the same time, though, Pitt needs to win more. Call a spade a spade. Pat Narduzzi's got to put his foot down and get after it. This is year 2 of Cade Bell. Eli Holstein needs to step up. This offensive line, from everything I've seen and been told, they've been a lot better this spring. But guess what? You got to prove this shit. It's that simple. And I've said before, the first 2 games, I'm not going to judge too hard against Pitt. When it goes to game 3 against Morgantown, I'm going to be very critical because that's when we're going to find out what type of football team we have. And guys are getting paid. It's time to show up. You either want this shit or you don't. Nothing's given. Everything's earned. Earn this shit. Guys are already firing me up for football season. They pay their players more than they pay external guys. Mostly, I mean, they're there at that point. Now, some of the guys they bring in from this, like the second portal window, they're paying a lot of those guys a lot of money. Like Trevor Pena, he came over from Syracuse. They certainly paid him quite a bit of money. There's other guys there. They got a linebacker from North Carolina as well. The media in the city doesn't do Pitt any favors. The producer on Starkey's show has been talking up Penn State being the preseason number 1. We need more Bostic pumping Pitt up. I agree. I love to see Bostic on there early in the morning as well. Sometimes you can't be scared of the hate. You got to call a spade a spade. Don't be scared of the hate. I still think there are a lot of 2 or 3-star guys who can't afford camps who get overlooked as well. I think that there's a lot of recruiting gems come from. I agree. And I think Pitt does a good job of finding those guys. Cruz Brookins is another one of those guys. Cruz Brookins has come onto the scene. Dane Jackson in the National Football League. He was one of those guys on the scene. Patrick Jones, 2-star. Rashad Weaver, 2-star. Those guys were all Americans at Pitt. They're now in the NFL. Same thing. It's good players, but don't compare the players from Florida, Georgia, Maryland. The WPIAL is not the WPIAL of the 80s and 90s. The WPIAL shouldn't be ignored. I agree. I don't think there's 10-plus guys that can play at the Power 4 level, but there's 3 or 4 guys every year that you got to compete for. And again, I was big on those guys like Tyke Hayes. I think he's going to be a stud. They're going to keep a relationship with him. I think he's going to do a hell of a job. And I hope, hey, if he hits the portal, if I'm Pitt, I'm getting after it. I'm getting that guy here because he would be a tremendous asset in terms of how good he would be at Pitt. Cool, but it isn't what it used to be. I agree. What's up, JJ Coach from the College Hall of Fame College Football Podcast? If you haven't done so, subscribe to them, guys. They are the best. Coach is the best coach. Penn State will go backwards again this year. I kind of agree with you. I think there's going to be some question marks there. If I'm Penn State, I mean, they're going to try to prove themselves with the passing game. They got a 2-headed monster running back. They got Singleton, and then who's the other kid that's back there? He's a freaking stud. I mean, they got 2 great running backs back there. I mean, I'm feeding them the football. Adam Vincic, yeah, Coach. Easy ass schedule. I mean, Jesus Christ. Franklin's offense is a lot like Thomas' defense. They have their fingerprints on it, and they aren't good. I agree. Do you think Rich Rod finds any success at WVU, or is it just a nostalgia hire? So here's my opinion. I think that there's a lot of pressure on him for year 1, which I don't understand. I think he needs time to build that roster. From what I've seen, I heard that their defense during spring camp was absolutely horrid. I think the offensive line play during spring was horrid. There are guys that they need to get better at. I think the quarterback position seems to be a good area where they're at right now. They brought a kid in from Texas A&M that I think is actually going to be pretty good. He's going to compete with Nico Markiel. I think Nico will probably end up being the starter, in my opinion. I think he's got that tough nose, what they're looking for in Morgantown. I think he'll start. Rodney Gallagher, from what my understanding is, he'll play wide receiver and stick to the offensive side of the football. But from my understanding, their defense was absolutely horrid. I mean, during camp. I mean, there was major issues. And I think that he's starting to walk it back a little bit in interviews, saying, hey, you're one, we're going to try to, we got to get our feet down. And at the end of the day, still, he's going to coach that team hard as hell when it comes to week 3 in Morgantown. Anything can happen in the backyard brawl, as we've seen. That's how I look at it. I think that, Pitt should win that football game. They have 70+ different players from the portal. I mean, that is absolutely bewilderment. I mean, that is so hard to do that, and to get those guys to play at a high level, it's extremely hard. Extremely hard. I think this first year, I think he'll be lucky to get 4 or 5 wins, in my opinion. I think in year 2, there's an opportunity there. For me, it's not a nostalgia hire. Just West Virginia is not in exactly the greatest shape financially. I think they're in a lot of debt. They're, as a university, not just as an athletic department, they don't garner a lot of revenue. They're certainly going to compete at a high level in terms of trying to compete and spend money, and when it comes to the cap and it comes to revenue sharing. But they've got a lot of work to do down there. They're paying Rich Rodriguez $3.5 million. I mean, he's like the lowest paid football coach in the Big 12. In previous years, he kind of took less money to give more money to the assistants, which kind of helps, because during Neil Brown's tenure, the amount of coaches that I talked to that said West Virginia does not pay their assistant coaches, and which is why that their assistant coaching pool was just absolutely horrid, and there's just lack of development and in the Neil Brown era, just prime example, they had 4 losing seasons in 6 years. That's horrible development. That's horrible coaching. That just shouldn't happen at West Virginia, especially with their history. Just the past 10 years have just been horrible at West Virginia, and they need guys who can develop talent. Rich Rod's one of those guys that have been known to develop talent, but he's also come back to West Virginia in a time where it's not like 17 years ago when everything was really on equal playing fields. He's got to be able to go in there and develop a lot of talent. I think the first year is going to be a little rough for him. Let's see here. Katron Allen. Thank you. Yeah. Singleton and Katron Allen. I mean, they got a 2-headed monster there. Hand the football off. But at the same time, though, you got to be able to pass the football. You got to be able to actually throw it to a wide receiver. I mean, that's like, elementary shit. I mean, and that's why you look at Penn State's offense, especially in the playoffs, which is absolute dog shit. They got to be able to complete passes. And the pressure is on him because they've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, if they can't win the Big Ten this year, I mean, they never will. They never will. And I think that, again, I think he's a great recruiter. There's no doubt about that. James Franklin is a great recruiter. He's got guys on his staff that are great recruiters. The development of talent and the development of game day, and obviously game day coaching, his game day coaching is so dog shit. Oh, my God. Some of the decisions that he makes is just some of the most bewilderment, dumbfounded stuff you'll watch. It's like, Pat Narduzzi does the same exact shit. We've seen a number of different times. Also, again, this year, if Pat Narduzzi calls a timeout again on 3rd down and long, and we give up a 3rd down and 15 to a 1st down, I'm going to literally blow a gasket in the stands. I mean, holy shit. How many times are we going to call a timeout to allow the offense to get more time to put up a play against our quarters defense, find us in a quarters defense style where we're pressing, they find a gap, they run a slant route, and they get it for 15, 16 yards, they get a 1st down. I mean, how many times can we do that? I think Pat's a great football coach in terms of defense. But Jesus Christ, I mean, how many times can we do that? It's got to stop. Is there a QB who gives you hope in the recruiting class to replace 12? Or has this thing changed and the QBs just come from the portal going forward as a college football trend now? Yinzer, but an occasional y'all. I like that name on X, by the way. That's pretty cool. Not going to lie. It's a pretty creative name. When it comes to the QB play after 12, to replace 12, who's is 12 Julian Duggar? Is that who you're talking about? I mean, right now I can tell you this. Eli Holstein's there. He's going to be the starter. But guys, let me tell you something. Mason Heinzel's for real. And I've talked to numerous coaches. I've talked to numerous players, his own teammates. There's Yinzer, thank you, Duggar. Julian Duggar, from everything that I heard too, Washington State gave him the okay to go out there, which is great. I think he's got an opportunity to have an opportunity to start. I don't know if he does start this year because he's going there in June. I think if he probably went there in December, he would have been the starter. But also, too, call a spade a spade. During the spring game, they announced players who get drafted. Quarterbacks, they couldn't draft Eli Holstein first because he was already a captain. So you couldn't, he was with the first team offense. The first quarterback taken was Mason Heinchel, his own teammates. I think Julian Duggar would have been in every game. From everything I've been told, and I believe it, there were packages for Julian. And for the way that the quarterback room was at Pitt, with guys getting hurt, there was an opportunity for him to play. And, Pitt was paying him, I did find afterwards, he's a backup quarterback. They're paying him $250,000 a year. He fell on the depth chart. At the end of the day, there has to be an understanding that you got to compete for stuff. And I don't know why it was just like a hard, debacle. And you guys saw the absolute meltdown from people on his side that were just saying, well, Pitt's in the wrong, all this stuff. He almost came back to Pitt. If Washington State didn't give him the okay, he was working his way back to Pitt, and Pitt was going to allow him to come back. Julian, I think, has got a lot of talent. He's a great kid, but the support system sometimes I just don't get it. You still got to earn your stripes, and I think that this is a great opportunity for him at Washington State. He's got an opportunity to compete out there and to start. But I think that right now, Pitt's doing a good job. Like, for instance, right now, Pitt has a quarterback committed in this class, Angelo Renda out of Texas. This kid's damn good. He's picking up offers as we speak. I'm trusting Cade Bell with that. I think he's done a great job because look at Mason Heinchel. Mason Heinchel is clearly the successor to Eli Holstein. And I think if Eli Holstein gets hurt, he's going to be that guy that goes in first. I think Cole Gonzalez is going to be a really good option as someone who teaches him the offense. And if he has to come in, he can come in. But I trust Mason Heinchel, man. When I talk to enough players and his own teammates, and they say, man, during the spring, he was kind of, working his way into being the best quarterback during the spring. Got to give him credit. And I think that early on, Eli is still recovering from that injury. He didn't look good, but in the second half of the spring, he did look good. So I think there's a lot of things working on both sides. But when it comes to the recruiting level, Pitt has Eli Holstein, Mason Heinchel behind him, and Angelo Renda is going to be coming in behind him next. And I think they'll probably go in the portal, get another guy to compete next year as a veteran guy. But, they're clearly doing a good job because Mason looks to be the guy. So I think there's still a lot of game. Great question, Yinzer. Great question, by the way, over on X. Guys, if you're over on X, head over to YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm. We've got 452 people watching the show right now. The show is what it is because of you, so I appreciate all of your guys' support as always. So I really appreciate it. JJ, give me two names that could or would be choices to succeed Narduzzi when he steps down. Ooh. I kind of want to watch getting into this a little bit, but I don't want to throw those names out there yet because I know there's a couple guys that are out there that I know of. There's a couple guys that I know personally from the SEC, one from the Big Ten, and there's one in the National Football League that I know that is very much interested in the Pitt job. But guess what? We don't know what Narduzzi's doing. We don't know when he's going to retire. We'll see how this season goes. But I can assure you, Alan Green is a guy who will be aggressive if he thinks a change needs to happen. Football pays the bills. A guy like Jeff Capel, he's going to be here for at least 2 or 3 more years, whether it's good or bad. He's going to be here. Football pays the bills. And there's going to be some major movement in terms of football coming up pretty soon. But there are some guys. There are some guys that we look at that could say, hey, there's an opportunity there. And again, it's a P4 job. Pitt certainly pays. Heck, Narduzzi's making $7.5, almost $8 million a year to coach Pitt. When you're willing to pay, guys want to jump up and get the job here. And especially from our perspective, from talking to coaches outside of Pitt, knows that Pitt's going to be spending to the limit, 75, 80% towards football. That's a major benefit. Major benefit. Is Pitt an SEC job or Big Ten job? No. They're not Georgia. They're not Alabama. They're not Ohio State. They're not Michigan. There are certainly challenges to how you can win here, but the resources are there. If you win here, people show up. When you have back-to-back seasons where you're winning, people show up to watch Pitt. I mean, heck, we saw during 2021, and John Steigerwald was telling me there was never 50,000 plus fans during a Pitt game. I mean, I don't know. I'm at the Pitt games. I can see during the Clemson game. I can see during the WVU game. I can see during the Cal game. I can see during a number of games. The Clemson game, call a spade a spade. Not a Rich Rod fan, but he will improve the program. I agree. Do I think they win anything big there with him there? I don't think so. Would love to see Pitt bring Terry Smith back to Western PA. Local ties, great recruiter, seems like a great coach. But Speedy Torres, I mean, there have been a couple people that told me that. He's a Penn State guy. I don't want a Penn State guy at Pitt. No offense. I mean, I talked about this recently with the Marshall hire with Tony Gibson. Tony Gibson's really from the southern part of West Virginia, and he's a West Virginia guy, so he wanted to come back. He had some great defenses at NC State. I think he's going to be a good hire. And also, West Virginia fans are not going to like this. West Virginia should be facing Marshall. That's an easy game where it's not a long distance because West Virginia pays a lot of money and expenses to travel out of state for non-conference games. I mean, their expenses are through the roof. They don't have that type of money, And I think renewing a rivalry with Marshall, and whether you do a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-2 or a 4-for-3, or even potentially if you had to a 4-for-2, 4 games at Morgantown, 2 and 2 down in Marshall, those are easy sellouts. And again, West Virginia fans, you guys won't like this, but here comes facts. You only sell out games when Pitt and Penn State show up to your stadium. Just like us. We sell out games when it's Penn State, West Virginia, and Notre Dame. Why? We play in a 70,000-seat stadium. It's too big for Pitt. But when we're averaging, when we're winning between 50 to 55,000 fans, that's exactly what West Virginia's averaging. They had one sellout 2 years ago, which was Pitt, and they had a sellout last year, which was Penn State. Just call a spade, and their average was between 45 to 55,000, and really 45 to 50,000 because towards the end of the year, no one was showing up. It looked horrible. I mean, heck, they were getting absolutely destroyed. They were getting absolutely destroyed by Iowa State and Kansas State. I mean, the stadium was empty, and they play in a stadium that's 10,000 less seats. I don't want to hear the excuses. I liked SMU scheduling LSU. I agree. What team would you like Pitt to play non-conference wise? Those Tennessee games were awesome. To be honest with you, I would like Tennessee back on there. The Johnny Majors Classic. There's a lot of stuff between Tennessee and Pitt that actually coincides with it. I think that would be a great game for Pitt to get back on the schedule. Also, too, though, let's be very clear, and I want to be very clear on this. If it's an 8-game conference schedule, it should be 1 Power 4. The non-con should be 1 Power 4, 1 Group of 5, and 2 FCS. It's that simple. Or you do 1 Power 4, 2 Group of 5, and then 1 FCS. The days of Pitt scheduling, 11 Power 4 games. I mean, what the hell? I think eventually, from what it sounds like, ACC may go to 9 conference games. I hope they don't. I like going out of conference. I like grabbing some SEC and some Big Ten teams. To be honest with you, I would like to, we have Wisconsin coming up on the schedule. I think that's a great game. Me personally, I want Michigan State. I want Wisconsin. I want Iowa. I want those teams out of the Big Ten. When it comes to the SEC, I want Tennessee. I would love to see Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi State. I would like that. I would actually like a really good game with Oklahoma. That's a great brand game that comes up here. Grab some names and validity. Oklahoma, a very good team out of conference. And then obviously, as always, Notre Dame. I always love facing Notre Dame. That's always a good rivalry to me between going to South Bend or having them come here. They'll be coming here this year. I love facing Notre Dame. I think it's a great game as always. Would love to see very good one here too. Oh, thank you for coming, by the way. Thank you for coming over to YouTube, by the way. I really appreciate that. Yinzer, but occasional y'all. Would love to see Pitt get a series to Indiana. That would be a great game. I'll tell you what, too. I'll even put this one out there. How great was that UCLA game? I mean, we were all tuned into that game. Pitt finishes a year ranked in the top 25 because they win that game. That was extremely heated. Then you got guys like Coach Foster up there, who I think he can try to turn it around up there. Tino Sinceri is the offensive coordinator up there. That's a great game to put on the schedule. There's a number of different teams you can get out there. Now, obviously, they have to agree to play as well. The Big Ten, they have 9 conference games. They're only going to play one maybe one more Power 4. I mean, heck, you saw, Penn State's not even facing a Group of 5 or a Power 4 team. I mean, they're facing Nevada, which is Group of 5, Nevada, Florida International, which is barely hanging on to dear life for a football program, and then you got who's Villanova out of the FCS. I mean, Jesus Christ. Winnable series with IU and would put a hole in the Big Ten is a better narrative. I agree. Boston College had Rutgers on there because it's a close game for them. It's a close non-con game for them. I agree with that one too. I think that'd be a great game for them. A number of different games though. Until the House settlement really sets in and balances things out, you will see Pitt be competitive every 3 to 5 years, and the AC Championship game contender every 4 or 5 years. We develop 2, 3, 4-star players. I agree with that, but I think that I think you're underestimating, Sherlin, how quick it really gets involved with the salary cap, because that's going to come in immediately. And the minute that gets approved, Pitt's going to start spending its own money. That's going to start happening very quickly. And I think Pitt does a really good job of getting talent, but at the same time, though, they do a really good job of developing talent. But you know what? Pat Narduzzi needs to do a better job of closing out games and quit making mistakes. You have to close out a Virginia game. You have to close out a Clemson game. You can't lose the way they lost to SMU down at SMU this year. That just can't happen. Just Pitt needs to win the games it's supposed to win. It's that simple. And I think that starts with the coaching staff, and it goes down to the players, that each and every game is not an easy win or a given. Every game in college football is hard as hell. You got to prepare weekly, hard, extremely hard. And I think that needs to start with the coaching staff, and they have to really develop that and start getting these guys to understand they're practicing hard as hell for a reason. And I know that practices are not easy. I've certainly heard a lot of players talk to me. I mean, Desmond Reed talked about how, I don't know if you guys saw, Desmond Reed was on the ACC network, and they said, do you have any crazy stories about Pat Narduzzi? He said when he first got to Pitt, it was during the spring, and guys were wearing it was like a thud scrimmage, and they were wearing sweatpants to the scrimmage. He basically said we are never, while the remaining rest of spring, we're not practicing indoors. It doesn't matter if it's going to be rain or snow. We're practicing outside in the elements, and he literally did. He said it was the craziest thing he'd ever seen because of how cold it was during the spring. I mean, Narduzzi's going to run his program like that. But also, too, Narduzzi expects a lot from his coaching staff and his players. He needs to start asking more of himself. He needs to start finishing football games. He needs to win the games he's supposed to win. This bullshit of where you lose some games just cannot happen. It's bullshit. Win the games you're supposed to win and quit blowing games. UCF seems like a forced rivalry with recruiting. I'd rather play WVU. I agree. And then, obviously, that's a great point, Marlon. This is very good. UCF is on the schedule as well. I think that's a forced one as well because of the recruiting shit. That can be really annoying. I agree with that. I don't really like facing UCF. I don't even like them to begin with. I think they came up here for a number of games when we beat them up here. They were such assholes up here. They remind me a lot like a Wake Forest fans. Those guys were total assholes. I mean, Wake Forest fans, they talked all this shit before the game, and then we absolutely beat the shit out of them in the AC Championship game. I mean, literally, they scored 21 points in the first quarter. We shut them out the rest of the game. Those guys went crying out of Bank of America Stadium. Biggest crock of shit fans I've ever seen in my life. And they were damaging cars while they were at it, too. Like, hey, head back to Winston-Salem, soft-ass bitches. There isn't any excuse for not having WVU Pitt play every year. Tim, I agree. I think that needs to happen. Now this is the last year for people that don't know this, if you're watching this. Pitt and West Virginia, this is the last year that they're facing each other until 2029. So 2026, 2027, and 2028 are all seasons without Pitt versus West Virginia. I don't agree with it. It's how the scheduling goes. Hopefully there comes a time when West Virginia and Pitt are back in the same conference. We'll see. As we go to the larger form of college football by 2030, we'll watch and see what that looks like. But I agree, Tim. They should play every year. South Carolina would be a fun game as well. I agree. They're kind of a Pitt of SEC, but let's wait until Seller leaves. Seller's a damn good football player. But I agree. That would be a really good game, too. That's a great game to go to down in I'm thinking Columbia, South Carolina. Or is that's Clemson? No, I'm right. Columbia, South Carolina. That's a great drive, easy drive. That'd be such a fun game to go to, especially down there. Always fun. Always a fun game. That's a great suggestion there too. But again, you have 8 conference games, one more Power 4 game. That's it. You have 9 P4 games, and then after that, you can have 2 group of 5s, 2 group of 5 games. That's 9, 10, 11, and then 1 FCS. The days of scheduling, 2 or 3 P4 games, I think is ridiculous. Now, I will say though, if it comes down to if you had to schedule 2 P4 games, mine would be West Virginia and Penn State. That's simple. Penn State trying to act on rival is also bullshit. It's another opportunity to do their stupid whiteout. I don't see why they don't do it. Marlon, and here's the truth. And I'm going to be doing, if you haven't followed the show yet, subscribe to the show. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be doing the Pitt versus Penn State rivalry. And there's more stuff that comes out that says Pitt and Penn State should be playing every year, which I don't know if it's every year. I think they should have like a 4-game series, take 2 or 3 years off, and then do another 4 games. Because that's just how scheduling is. The Big Ten has 9 conference games. I understand how they want to schedule and do everything from there. But the reality is that they do the unrivaled stuff, which is so stupid. It looks so dumb on them. They're and they don't want to say this. And this is the truth. They are scared to play Pitt because in the national limelight, they are supposed to beat Pitt. And when they lose to Pitt, they lose opportunities. And I knew it was going to come eventually. But when Pitt beat Penn State in 2016, that game kept Penn State out of the Big Ten championship. I'm sorry, not the Big Ten championship. They won the Big Ten, but that loss kept them out of the playoff. And from then on, you'll hear Penn State fans say, well, the Pitt game doesn't do anything for us. That's such a crock of shit. They're scared to lose to Pitt because they're supposed to win. It's a lot like West Virginia whenever they're facing like a team like Marshall. And that's a little bit different because it's a group of 5 team. I think personally West Virginia wins that game 9 or 10 times out of 10, just my opinion, because they have more resources. They're a better football team, better program. Call it what it is. But when it comes to Pitt and Penn State, they should play more often than not. I mean, you look at the 4-game series, 3 of the games were close. The one was a blowout, obviously, at Acrisure Stadium, or I guess at Heinz Field at the time. I was at that game. It was 14-10 at halftime, or 14-6 at halftime, and just the rain and everything else just pushed it out of everything else you could imagine. It just got out of hand. But, give credit to Penn State. They won the game. But at the same time, though, every other game was close. Like, what the hell? And the notion that Pitt and Penn State shouldn't play is bullshit. Now, do I miss playing Penn State? Not really, because I think that their fan base is ridiculous. I think we don't need Penn State for a number of different reasons. I think there's a lot of a facade that goes on up there with everything that they do. They need those easy games to get their wins, because if they don't have those easy games, they won't win 10 or 11 games a year. That's certainly been proven. But when you look at overall, they should have a 4-game series, every 8 years. Have a 4-game series back to back, and then also too the comment, well, would we help fill up your stadium? I mean, we play in a 70,000 seat stadium. Okay, whatever, it's too big for us. But if that's how you feel like it, if there's only 15 or 20,000 Penn State fans there, then don't go to the game. How hard is that? Are they that dumb? But then again, it's not surprising they stick up for Paterno and Sandusky. So it's not exactly, I'm not shocked. I mean, when you see some of the stuff online. But at the end of the day, they're scared to face Pitt because if they lose, it ruins their season. And heck, guys, I was at the game in 2016. I saw grown men cry, grown-ass men cry when they lost to Pitt. That is exactly how I saw it. And to be honest with you, even when we lost, I thought it was a damn good game. There's a lot of hatred. Like Ohio State fans, Ohio State and Penn State is a game that you mark on the calendar because it's between two great programs. But it's not a rivalry. Ohio State fans always say to Penn State fans, our rival is Michigan, and it will always be Michigan. You can try your hardest. You can try your damnedest to make Ohio State your rival. You never will. You never will. You're 1-10. You're 1-10 against Ohio State. They kick the ever-loving shit out of you. It's non-debatable. You guys lose every single year. Even when you have all that talent, you lose every single year. The 1 year you beat them, it's because you had a blocked field goal. It took a blocked field goal to beat them. I mean, holy hell. Penn State's just on their own. And that's why I've given up on that kind of stuff. I'll talk about it in the rivalry series. But Penn State's in their own hole. They're scared to play Pitt. They won't admit it. It's the truth. Because if they lose to Pitt, it concludes their season. That's how they look at it. And I think what honestly helps Pitt is that they just continue to win. They got to keep stacking wins each and every year. It's that simple. You can't go 7-6 and have a little bit of respect. You just can't do it. You got to start winning more football games. It's that simple. But also, it doesn't deny the fact that Penn State is scared. Because if they lose, their season blows up. I mean, again, to this day, it was the wildest thing when I was in college. And I watched grown men cry. They were crying because they lost to Pitt. Now, Oakland was crazy that night, by the way, which again, maybe we may have some more magic in Oakland 5 years from now. Who knows? Who knows? JJ, with regard to Narduzzi winning games, we should win. You were on point. Sherlin, thank you. And I agree. We got to win more games. It's that simple. He's got to be better. Sorry to switch back to the current team as this was a great convo. How concerned are you with all the O-line departures? Yins are not occasional, y'all. I'm not concerned at all. We still got to give you an update on the offensive line as we go into summer OTAs in the spring. I'm sorry, in the fall. From left to right, Eric, amen. Ohio, and you are, and guys, and this is a great example. Eric is a Michigan guy, okay? It is the game. Ohio State and Michigan are always going to be rivals. It's that simple. Penn State never will. It's the truth. And that's a true fact right there. He's now I consider him more of a Pitt guy now. He's on our side now because of Mason. But he knows. And that just tells you it will always be the game. Hands down. To this point, the offensive line right now, the starting five from left to right. Left, Jeff Percy. I think it's going to be either Keith Guvia or Kendall Stanley or Jackson Brown. But let's just say, for instance, this is top five. Jeff Percy, left tackle, left guard, Keith Guvia, center, Lyndon Cooper, who's going to be damn good this year. I think he's settled in. Lyndon Cooper at center, right guard, B.J. Williams, returning starter, and then right tackle, Ryan Bayer. That's your five. The backups behind them, Kendall Stanley at left tackle. Jackson Brown can play left guard or right tackle. So there's two right there. Then you have Caleb Holmes. Then at right guard, you also have Isaiah Montgomery, and then also Isaiah Montgomery at right tackle. So right there, you have four backups. So you have 9 guys. 9 guys can play on the offensive line this year. And I'd say even I keep calling him Hartman. It's not Hartman. There's another guy that's back there with Caleb Holmes. Oh, and Ty Ray. Ty Ray's another one who really stepped up in the spring that I was told about. You've got 9 to 10 guys who can play on the offensive line this year. And out of the 10, 8 of them have experience. Your top 5 have experience. And then your 6, Kendall Stanley has experience. Jackson Brown, 7, has experience. Isaiah Montgomery, 8, has experience. So you have 8 guys right there that have experience. Straight up. So to be honest with you, I'm not as concerned as I was last year. Oh, thank you, Pitman Zach. Ryan Coretta. Ryan Coretta is also another backup. Keith Guvia can go into play center, and that's where you can have Kendall Stanley go into guard. I don't think they will, because you want to have Jackson Brown go in that position, or Jackson Brown can play both your tackles. I think he's that good of a football player, and he should be playing a lot more, in my opinion. But you got 9 to 10 guys. 8 of them have experience. Last year, I was concerned. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I was concerned because we had 5 guys who could play last year. After that, and then I think 6 guys. Terrence Enos had experience. But after Terrence, you had nobody else behind him that had legitimate experience. Those guys now have the experience they need to be power 4 players. So to be honest with you, I'm not really concerned at all with the offensive line. Schematics, I want to see the schematics get better in terms of blocking. We do a lot of pin pull schemes with, with wide receivers cracking down on 6'5", we have a 5'9" wide receiver cracking down on a 6'5" defensive end. I don't know what the hell we're doing there. That just does not make any sense at all. That is destined to fail. That needs to get better. But overall, I'm more impressed with the O-line this year. Now, don't get me wrong. I think J.B. Nelson from Penn State would have been a good addition to grab in here. I think he may have started at left guard. Or what's his name from Notre Dame? We had Pitman Zach, help me out here, from Notre Dame, who we were going after in the portal. Great young man too. It was great conversations with him too, and his dad. They're great people. Oh God, guys, what the hell? I'm drawing a blank on it. But you guys know what I'm saying, though. Spindler. Yeah, Rocco Spindler. I mean, guys, that would have been a great addition as well. And again, to make sure people understand this, too, Rocco Spindler, guys, we offered him $900,000 to play guard. Holy shit. Nebraska offered $1 million. Pitt did his work. Pitt did his job. You can't complain. You can't do anything else. Personally, I think Rocco made a mistake. I think Rocco coming to Pitt would have been a home run for him. Comes home, his dad back to Pitt, and he would have started. That's just my opinion. I think he would have been a hard. He would have done really well here, in my opinion. But I understand Nebraska, Big Ten, and Matt Rule. Matt Rule does a really good job with offensive line play, so I get it. Hail to Pitt. Is Malachi Thompson a breakout candidate tight end? I'm going to say no. And I think, and here's why. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he's got a lot more work to do. I really do. And that's why you see Pitt going after, and that's a prime example why you see Pitt going after multiple tight ends. They got the kid from Marshall, which is kind of a body. And again, we should have had Ty Lockwood out of Alabama. He's up at Boston College as the tight end number 1 right now on their depth chart. We should have had Ty Lockwood. I wanted that kid so bad. He wanted to come here, but we were good at tight end. We were good at tight end, guys. I just, what do we know? And especially too, guys from behind the scenes who were really much involved in that, they knew it too. We got some great Pitt guys out there to do a good job. It is what it is. Don't get me started on that shit. But Malachi Thomas, I think he needs another year. I think rotate him in. He could potentially be that guy in the second half of the year. I don't think there are any breakout tight ends at Pitt. Bart was a hell of a tight end and never used. Speedy Torres, I think it's a good point. To your point here, and then back to Marlon here and Malachi Thomas, I think he can be rotated in. He just needs more experience. I just think for him to be a breakout guy, I think he's a year away. I think not this year, but the year after. Get him some repetitions, and I think he jumps on board. Pitt's going after that kid from Florida A&M, Kobe Gross. Again, Pitt, North Carolina, Cal, Kansas, all those schools are after him. Ole Miss is after him. That's why they're going after guys like that. Jake Overman, I'm very happy with Jake Overman. He's turned out to be a much better tight end than anybody thought. He's a great blocking tight end, but he's a great catching tight end as well. He had a number of great catches last year. But to Speedy Torres' point, in this offense, I just think that they want to utilize a tight end here and there and mismatches on the outside. You saw Gavin Bartholomew on the outside last year, but you look at guys at the wide receiver position, he clearly wants to use the wide receivers. You've got Kenny Johnson at wide receiver 1. You've got Deuce Spann, the 4-star transfer from Florida State. He's there. Then you've got Raphael Poppy Williams. You've got C.J. Lee. You've got Tyree Robinson. Blue Hicks from Louisville, the 4-star transfer from Louisville. He's here. Zion Fowler L. You got a number of bodies in there in that wide receiver room where there's a lot more depth. And, it makes sense. But I think overall, when you're watching Pitt, they're going to utilize it's almost like the unless it's directed towards a tight end, the tight ends are more of like a second option or a third option in terms of reading on the offense. I think that they're more focused on the wide receivers. And again, there's a lot of shit that the wide receivers got to prove this year. Kenny Johnson got to prove himself this year. Deuce Spann has to prove he can stay healthy. He was going to be, and I called down there from people that I know personally who recruit in that area, who have coached down there. Deuce Spann was going to be a starter last year until he got hurt. And he's got that 4.4 speed. He's got to prove he can stay healthy this year. He has to prove a lot. Kenny's got to prove a lot. Deuce Spann's got to prove a lot. Raphael Poppy Williams, they were, he had a case of the drops towards the end of last year. He had torn ligaments in both of his thumbs. That kind of shit will hurt you in terms of trying to catch the football. CJ Lee coming back from injury, but he should be healthy. He should be back. That'll be good for us as well. Tyree Robinson supposed to take that next step this year. Zion Fowler L. Tony Kinsler has done a good job in camp as a true freshman. He's got a lot to prove. I don't think he'll get on the field right away because obviously there's more guys in front of him, hopefully. Hopefully. But that's kind of where we're at with that. So they got to prove a lot at the wide receiver position. So I feel comfortable. I'm not super excited outside of Kenny Johnson because those guys got to prove a lot more besides him, and so does Kenny. Don't get me wrong, Kenny Johnson got to prove a lot, but I think Kenny's he's got everything that's there. Just throw him the football. Just throw him the football. I mean, for Christ's sake, he'll be fine. But they got a lot to prove, and again. We can talk about how well they've done in camp against each other. That's great. We talk about this shit every year, but they got to prove it. Guys, they got to prove it on the field. And guess how we're going to know if they're good or not? When they go to week 3 in Morgantown. Week 3 in Morgantown, you're going to find out who the real players are on this team. It's that simple. And I've been saying that for months now. I will not judge this team, not even after the first 2 games, because they're supposed to win those games. Week 3, we'll find out what type of football team we got this year. And it's a backyard brawl. There should be no reason to get them up and get them motivated. It's a backyard brawl. You're fighting for every yard. It's a dogfight. They want to make it a 7-on-7. We want to make it a street fight. It's our neighborhood versus their state. We'll kick the shit out of their state every year. Sherlin Luck, I don't worry about the offensive line as much as the defensive end position. I agree. I'm more concerned about the defensive end position because there's just so many unknowns. That's another one. We got no pressure from our ends on the QB in 2024. What makes this position better for Pitt in 2025? Again, I think that the reason I feel better is because Jaden Moore has turned out to be the 4-star transfer from Oregon has turned out to be pretty damn good. Blaine Spires, he started to practice more towards the end. He started to look good. Joey Zielinski from Eastern Michigan started to look good. I think from everything I've been told, this group has looked a lot better, a lot quicker than last year's group. There were more unknowns where Chief Borders never played defensive end before. That was a problem. Nate Matlack never played the defensive end position in a 4-3. That was a problem. These guys this year have all played in a 4-3. Jaden Moore, besides Jaden Moore, he's turned out to be very good in a 4-3 for a guy coming over from Oregon who played in a 3-4. Joey Zielinski has played in a 4-3. Blaine Spires has played in a 4-3. You've got Nate Temple that's there. Jimmy Scott will be back as a starter. He played last year and turned it on towards the end of the year. In the last 5 games, he had 6 sacks. You love to see that. But they got a lot to prove yet. They got a lot to prove going into the season. I think the defensive tackle position is better this year, obviously, with helps D ends. Speedy Tortoise. I have concerns about the defensive end room because I got to see it. But to your point here, the defensive tackle room, I am not concerned. You're starting to 110%. Sean Fitzsimmons, you saw how Sean Fitzsimmons played last year. He'll be good this year. Nick James earned himself that starting position there. Francis Breu, he'll go into his second year. He's turned it on. A lot more flexibility work this year. He's a bigger guy. They worked for flexibility purposes. He's going to be a damn good football player for us this year. Jasir Whittington, he's going to step into this. I mean, apparently he has taken off for it takes some guys, those first couple of years where it just takes a click. From everything I've been told, it has clicked for Jasir Whittington. Isaiah O'Neal. He has added weight, which is a good thing because he was pushed around last year. Him adding weight only helped him. That's your fifth guy right there. And then Ty Uhas at 6. Ty Uhas, I saw him in person out of Pittsburgh Central Catholic. Guys, holy hell. I mean, that guy is a completely different looking dude than a year ago. I mean, the Pitt Ironworks and Coach Stacchiotti and that group, holy shit. I mean, that's a big dude. I mean, coming out of high school from where he was in high school after a year to where he is now, holy shit. I mean, that guy's a big guy. I mean, holy hell. Should kicking be a concern at all? I remember 21 season kicking was horrific under Sauls, won the job. I am completely concerned about kicking. I mean, the kicking game, from what I've been told, has not been consistent. We need to score touchdowns this year. Ben Sauls is not coming back. We had the London kid from, I think he came up from the group of 5, did not play well during the spring game. I think you can judge a kicker in the spring game because, hey, it's the spring game. I mean, it's not like it's a regular position like a D end or an offensive tackle where you're playing thud. I mean, you're kicking field goals. That is a concern this year. The kicking game is a concern right now. We do not have a guy like we've had the past 3 or 4 years where we had, Ben Sauls for 2 years. We had Alex Kessman for 2 years. We had 4 great years of and then Chris Blewett. Chris Blewett was a tremendous kicker. We had really 6 years of great kickers. And this year, I've got a concern. I think the kicking game is a concern this year. Adam Vincic, yeah, the defensive tackles will open up more for the ones on the D ends. I completely agree. All right, guys. Well, I just realized we're an hour and 30 minutes in. Holy shit, guys. I won. Guys, we started at, what did it say? We started here at like 9:30. We got 503 people in here right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight on a late night. Who would have thought? I never would have thought in a million years we'd have so many people coming to watch the show on a Monday night, on a work night for all of us. I know that. Late nights, early mornings, man. We're pumping it right now, man. So I really appreciate it. Cannot thank you guys enough. If you guys have not done so, subscribe to the channel. We'll do the super chats and stuff like that next time. I didn't see any this time, so I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any. I didn't see any highlighted ones. Guys, again, like this video, subscribe, share this video, as you can imagine. Great job, JJ. Thanks you for hosting. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Your loyalty, the show has grown because of you guys. I mean, the goal right now, guys, is to get to 2,000 subscribers. I think I need roughly 500 more subscribers to get to 2,000. We're going to continue to grow. The show is what it is because of you guys, not me. I just bring the honest perspective. Some people might say I'm a little bit too optimistic. Don't care. I'm just calling it the way I see it. It's that simple. It's how I've been told from talking to numerous people, from sources that I talk to. It's not just 1 or 2 different people. It's usually 5, 6, or 7. And we got great people, man. Continue to tune in the show. I can completely thank you guys enough. This is so much fun for me, guys. I mean, besides the sponsors, I don't really make anything from this. This is like pure joy because I get to talk about college football and Pitt football and interact with you guys. I met so many parents and so many fans at the spring game. It was so cool. I mean, heck, I signed a football, for Christ's sake. That was pretty cool. Got to take pictures with parents. I mean, we're going to be fine, guys. Continue to support Pitt. We're going to be fine. We're going to figure it out. But I'll see you guys back here during the week. We may have a live show during the week. We will have the Sunday conversation back on a Sunday. I don't like doing a Sunday conversation on a holiday, guys, especially Mother's Day. We gotta embrace our mothers, because they're the ones that run the house and they're the ones that make a house a home. I can tell you that. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Again, share this on Facebook, on Pitt Panther Fanatics, Pitt Family for Life. They're great groups on Facebook. Share this on Twitter. Let's get the conversation going. Guys, in the comment section when this is dropped, go to the comment section. Tell me what you liked about the show, what you didn't like, what you want to see more of in the comment section after this is closed out. Guys, thank you as always, now and forever. Hail to Pitt and hail to the ACC. I'll see you next time.